Okay, I'm here, and I apologize for my lateness. Happy Friday, Funky Friday, on the Morning Night Live. No, no preview video because I'm late. Welcome on this beautiful, beautiful day. Subject's a little more serious today. So even though it's Funky Friday, I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna keep the music off after this intro. But welcome. We'll get into it right after the intro. Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you live from the Lucky Dog Studio in a hidden location somewhere in the upper Midwest of the United States of America, it's a brother making his own way but with all the wrong opinions. Welcome to the Morning Night Live with your host, yours truly, P. Dog Night. All right, stop the music. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Night Live. I'm your host, Marty, also known as P-Dog Night on the internet, and welcome back to the P-Dog Night channel on this Friday, the 27th of May, 2022. Happy Friday, Funky Friday. We are here, and I know I'm running a little late. I apologize. Had a little technical issue, and then I had to restart everything, so I'm here now. Topic's a little bit deep today, so I'm not going to... I'm going to keep it a little bit serious, but I do have a couple news items that I'll get to, but I want to really get into this. I got to thinking about this because of, because I have a new grandbaby, and I was thinking about how my kids grew up and things they were brought to them in school and how they've turned out, and I'm thinking, gosh, how's this going to go for my granddaughter? And I was just like, man, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on. There's a lot of people out there. Now, here, let me preface this with the fact that there are people out there who genuinely have issues with their identity, who they are, whatever. And everyone kind of goes through that, especially when they're going through puberty and all this stuff, right? Everyone has this thing. But the weird thing is that this whole gender ideology thing that we're dealing with right now, we're hearing a lot about it. We're hearing a lot about transgender. We're hearing a lot about people wanting to transition, puberty blockers and hormones and shit like that. And I try to figure out, why are we pushing this on kids? It seems insanity. So I wanted to talk a lot of those. I've been listening to a lot of different people and doing a lot of just I wouldn't say research. I'm just reading a lot. I wouldn't call it research. I just listening to people talk about this subject, people who've gone through transition, people who are detransitioning, people who have kids who are going through this. And it seems as though there's this just huge push for this. And it's all in the name of inclusivity and inclusion and diversity and equity, all that shit. And it's like, wait a minute. Adults who go through this, and I know an adult who's gone through this, and it's still a wrenching situation for that person, even though they've gone through it. And but I'm thinking, wait a minute, why are we doing this to kids? We're going to have and I'm telling you, we are going to have a worldwide health crisis, a mental health crisis. Because so many kids are being convinced that this might be that this is, not even might be, they're being convinced it is what's happening to them, with very little science behind it, with very little history and research into side effects. All the research that's done in this is, you know how you do a push poll? You know, you make a poll that you know you're just trying to get some certain answers. Well, all the science on this is like push polling. There's no real science, or very little research, and most of the research is starting with the premise that it's pro this, and you can't get funding for research to see if there's any bad things about it. And so it's becoming crazy. Now there's a couple countries right now in Sweden and Denmark where they're taking a step back and going, wait a minute, pump the brakes. So, and because for example, they're getting rid of they're no longer allowing puberty blockers and transitioning in kids because they've done some research where it's not allowed here. Now you can barely talk about it. I'm not even confident that this dream, because of what I'm talking about, will stay up. I don't know. I don't know if you're allowed to talk about it. I see people talking about it on YouTube, so maybe it'll be okay. I know it's much less acceptable to talk about this in some social media, though. You can get kicked off of social media for certain things, just for saying things that don't go along with the current narrative that it's, you need to affirm everything. And it's amazing to me that we're in a place, I'm watching all this debate about guns over the weekend or the last couple of days because of this terrible thing that happened in Texas, right? And there's people on the internet going, yes, we need to make it illegal for 18-year-olds to purchase weapons. We need to raise the price. There's some guy in here, he said, that you should raise the age to be able to buy weapons to 30 or even 20 to 25 when brains are fully developed. And if anyone between 21 and 25, you should have a special permission from parents. We're talking about you're technically an adult at 18, right? You can be drafted at 18. You can be you can't drink at 18, but telling people you have to get parents sign off on a 25-year-old buying a weapon. But those same people would tell you that a 12-year-old can make a life-changing decision that is fairly permanent, and in some cases permanent, that you can't reverse at age 12. Oh, so that frontal cortex that doesn't develop till you're 25 is applicable to weapons, but not to cutting off body parts. And it's completely insane to me. It's completely insane. And so that's the topic today. So if you're into these kind of topics, stick around. And if you're not, I'm sorry. I'm talking about them anyway. So, but before we do that, I'm going to say good morning. But even before I say good morning, we have our first sponsor of the day. And that would be Tire Alexander. And it's Funky Friday. So, of course, we play the funk. Tire Alexander, you are the Streamlabs Superstar Sponsor of the day. Thank you for being the first sponsor of the show this morning. Tire says, thanks for dropping a small bullet in the tip jar. Tire says, I wonder if they ever think that questioning who you are as a child is part of the experience of growing up. Oh, that's... that we are supposed to question our identity while we are young, so when we are older, we know people should ride the wave and find your own answer. Well, yeah, and thank you, Tara Alexander. Appreciate that again. It's funny because and I watch a lot of these documentaries and just listen to people talk, and especially with girls. Have you ever met a girl? Like, ever know any 13-year-old girls? I used to coach softball, so I know that I when my daughter was that age, I coached softball, and it's funny because I had a aha moment when I was coaching softball, because I coached my daughter's team up from like probably 4th grade on, right? She was playing softball when she was a kid, and so and all these girls are I love coaching girls because they're very receptive to things that you teach them. They learn. Boys always think they know everything. They have, oh, I've been playing this for years. I know everything. And there's like, well, you know what? You need to bend your knees, kid. The girls, you tell them to bend their knees. They're like, oh, you mean more like this, right? And I have to have my hands ready, whatever. So I taught them from 4th grade all the way up through 9th grade, and then they went on to play high school, or 8th grade, I'm sorry, 8th grade. Then some went on to play high school, some just did it recreationally, whatever, didn't matter. And that year that my daughter was like, I think like 12, I was 12, and I had, you had in our area, you had 6th, 7th, and 8th graders all playing in the same, on the 7, 8, same teams, right? And when she was in 6th grade, I'm like, all the 6th and 7th graders are really nice, but all these 8th graders are just really, really bitchy. And I'm like, what, and I'm like, what is going on here? They're all just so mean. And, but I got through the season, and they were all nice kids. They were just so mean. They were all angry and mad all the time. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. And then, the next year, it's like, the 6th and 7th graders were mostly nice, but all the 8th graders, the same girls, some of them are the same girls I coached the year before, the nice 7th graders, they were all of a sudden, oh, they're so mean. They're all mad and always in a bad mood. And I'm like, what is going on here? And my wife tells me, Marty, they're 13-year-olds, 12 and 13-year-olds. What happens around 12 and 13 and girls? Oh my God, it's a hormone thing. I'm like, something by the time my daughter was in 8th grade, I was like, oh, that's cool. I got this. It's no problem. And my daughter and all the 8th graders that I've been coaching before, they were all just being nasty and whatever. And I'm like, oh, you're 8th graders. You're supposed to be mean because that's, they're all, but it is, well, here's what it is. They're all going through these changes. They're all unhappy. Things are developing. They don't like their bodies. And now what happens is they go and tell us counselors, that they're just they're not comfortable, they're this and that, and they just don't like the change in their bodies. The counselors are like, well, you must be trans. What? No, they're just a kid going through puberty. But that's what's happening. And now the way it works is that you got all these teachers out there and whatever, they want to be inclusive, they want to be doing the right thing, and I don't think anyone's necessarily maliciously trying to do this, but they want to do the right thing, and they just want to, they're like, but the first thing that comes to mind is, oh, you must be trans, and then they, well, I'll get into it when I read the story, because we're going to go through a couple stories about this. Anyway, thanks again, Tyler Alexander. I appreciate you. Let's say good morning to everybody. First in the chat today, speaking of Tyler Alexander, he was also first in the chat, so you get a bell for being first. Yay! Also, good morning, Avocados Diablo. Good morning, Maddie, who's feeling better. I'm glad you're getting around a little better, Maddie. Welcome to the show. Why is that not working? There we go. Also, good morning, Lord Stanhope, Rotten Corpse. Thank you for retweeting the tweet this morning. Also, Simon Bolt Nation. Thanks for tweeting out the show. Good morning, also, GDSOB, Simon Wolfwood. I said Simon Bolt Nation, didn't I? Yes, I did. And also, Black Hebrew Israelite.
That's right.
There we go. Also, good morning to... who else is here? I gotta scroll down a little bit. Selected Boys in the house.
Yeah,
Mike Savage,
boy.
Blarg, Aaron Meredith. Also, I'm missing. I'm sorry. I got here so late that there's a lot of scrolling to do. Why are you so angry? Is in the house. Nice to see you. And Random American. What's up? Swirly. Excuse me. I said Surly. It's Swirly. Good morning. Don't be giving anyone Swirly. And Data Wasteland. So, by the way, if you're here, hit the like button and share the stream. This might be a little more contentious. I don't know if this one's going to get out there. The algorithm might just miraculously say, yeah, we're not going to promote this one, which I don't think they promote me that much anyway, because YouTube seems to hate me. Divine Petulance. Good morning. That's a new name. I haven't seen that one. Anyway, so, let's get into this. Oh, what is this? Oh, okay. There's okay, that's just stuff. Let me get you into some news first, and then we'll get into the main topic. I haven't spent much time talking about the event in Texas. and I'm not going to today, but I will put you. I'll in. By the way, if you're new here or just haven't listened to me, because some people don't listen to me, every day I put all links to everything that we do in the description of this video during the outro. So I have a single link that'll take you to a page that'll have hyperlinks to every single tweet, every single article, every single video, whatever we do on the show today, there'll be links to it. So if you want to, check some of these articles and things out when we're done, or use it for your own videos or your own podcast or whatever else you do, or just want to read it again, it'll be in a single link in the description down below. Now, what happened here? What the hell? Okay, so let's, if you want, now, I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to go through this, but if you want updates on what's going on with the, and let me clear this up first. If you want the mainstream media's version of what's happening, you can, it'll be linked here. Oh shoot, gosh darn it, what's going on here? There we go. But here's just the quick synopsis, and I'm going to read you some headlines because you can kind of tell where this is going just by some of the headlines or some of the tweets that some of the major media does. First, Twitter is their main page on this, says investigators still grabbing information about Texas school shooting as families search for answers. Victor Estelon, South Texas Regional Director of the Department of Public Safety, said in a Thursday news conference that investigators are working every angle regarding the deadly shooting in Uvalde and are looking into the shooter's motive. Estelon added that the gunman went from his grandmother's house to the bar ditch. I don't know what that means. Then the school, he crashed his car and was not confronted by anybody prior to the massacre. Meanwhile, families of the 21 individuals, 19 children and 2 teachers lost in Tuesday's attack, continue to grieve the loss of their loved ones. Okay. This was the Texas' deadliest shooting in modern history and the nation's 3rd mass shooting within weeks. Now it's fascinating. They don't talk much about one of the 3. That's interesting. Anyway, and if in this link that I give you, whether you're on Twitter or not, you will be able to see a list of different articles on it if you want to get caught up on it. The Austin Statesman, authorities are still piecing together what happened, which we just said. KHO News 11 in Houston, breaking. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick announced that he has decided to withdraw from speaking at an NRA event in Houston, citing the Uvalde mass shooting. Huffington Post, National Rifle Association's annual convention in Houston, less than 300 miles away, is forging ahead. Well, it's not their fault. By the way, good morning, Jeffrey Russell Jr. I said Divine Petulance. Data Wasteland, I already said. Resolute Gem, what's happening? Okay, I think I got everybody. Oh, and Snappy Tom, what's up? That would be, is that? I know who that is. Okay. Now, it says in 2018. Oh, that's our friend from down under. 2018, Uvalde police arrested 2 teens for plotting a Columbine-style mass shooting at a middle school. That's interesting. Democratic lawmakers are calling for stricter gun laws in the wake of school shooting that left 14 students and a teacher in Uvalde, Texas on Tuesday, arguing that the massacre warrants dramatic policy reforms. That's Senator, I think, who's this guy? What's his name? Chris something from Connecticut. Now, Chris Murphy, yeah, that's what I thought. It's funny, though, and we have a myriad of laws around the country on gun laws, right? And almost anything that they would propose, their ultimate goal is to eliminate gun rights, because I always laugh when they propose certain things. They'll propose something and I'll go, well, that wouldn't have changed anything in this case. Well, that would have changed anything in this case. The one that I keep hearing, though, is raise the age to 21. Okay, that would help what? Some of the worst massacres were not done by people under 21. Some of the worst massacres were done by people who did not legally buy guns in the first place. This one happened to legally buy guns. The background checks would not have stopped him because he didn't have a criminal record. No one knows what's going on with that. The one in and they keep going to the assault weapons ban. Well, most of these are done with handguns. So really, I think their ultimate goal is to make guns illegal. Now, which I personally do not abide by that idea. Good morning, Tadashi Shinao. Nice to see you. So anyway, if you want updates, apparently, the 10-year-old survivor was released from the hospital. Bipartisan group of senators considering how Congress should respond to the horrific shooting of 19 children and teachers in Uvalde, Texas, restarting gun control talks that have broken down many times before. Of course, mom's demand is out there. They're going to be, and also some acts that we're going to be performing at the NRA convention have backed out. And there have been a handful of people who are going to be dropping out of the NRA convention. Now, the other one thing, though, that you're going to hear a lot about in the next couple of days, that the police on the scene, and this is in the Washington Post, were reluctant to immediately engage with the gunman who spent an hour inside the elementary school because they could have been shot, a lieutenant in the Department of Public Safety said in a CNN interview. Now, they're really blasting this thing. And I don't know. Again, everyone's talking about that. I don't know what the situation was. If that is true, I'm concerned about their dereliction of duty, or were they concerned about causing more havoc by chasing the guy in? But I think that's their job. I don't know the details. I haven't read it. So that's one thing you're also going to hear. Let's see. And they're also going after, they're talking about the gun manufacturer, Daniel Defense, the company that made the rifle the gunman used on Tuesday to kill 21 people inside an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas, received a $3.1 million loan from the federal government in April 2020 through a Paycheck Protection Program. Really? And how is that relevant? Richard, you got two of these open, don't you? Oh, no, you just switched it to Richo now. My friend from down under. Now what's the relevance of that? If they're a company in the United States that asked for a PPP loan, are they a company in the United States? Was it restricted from gun manufacturers? That means nothing. Again, the New York Times is just stirring up some shit. CNN, the manufacturer, and also that manufacturer of that firearm has pulled out of the NRA convention. So if you want updates, this link will be there. I'm not going to read any of these articles today because that's not my focus today. Also, yesterday, or was it yesterday or the day before yesterday, I talked about the school in San Francisco that's having problems now. That Lowell School is giving more D's and F's than they ever have. Well, you know what? Sometimes when you watch this show, you get news first, because lo and behold, in the Daily Caller today, Elite High School ended merit-based admissions. It was a complete disaster. They're talking about the same thing in San Francisco. So sometimes it's good to get your news here first. Students at San Francisco Lowell High School received significantly more failing grades at the end of the fall 2021 semester following the school board's decision to end merit-based admissions. Well, you already know this story if you were here, and if not, watch yesterday's show. I beat them to it. All right. Also, I have to love. Good morning. CNN sucks. The most redundant name on the internet. What's up? Also, PolitiFact. Oh, I didn't even have that on the screen, did I? Silly me. Oh well. PolitiFact is running interference for Stacey Abrams after revisiting the issue of the Major League Baseball pulling the All-Star game. So Stacey Abrams understandably caused an uproar in Georgia politics when she told a group of Gwinnett County Democrats during a Saturday gala event that I'm tired about hearing about how we're the best state in the country to do business when we're the worst state in the country to live, before contextualizing her comments by alleging the state ranked poorly in mental health and maternal mortality and had it rising incarceration rates and declining wages. Almost every Republican running for office in the state, including Georgia Attorney General Chris Carr, who is running for election, slammed Abrams. But let's see. Where's the PolitiFact part? Oh shoot. Anyway. The Democratic apologists at PolitiFact got wind of Carr's revisiting the controversies surrounding Major League Baseball pulling the All-Star game out of Georgia last year in response to the Democrat media-driven uproar over the election reform bill that Governor Brian Kemp signed into law. PolitiFact has become infamous at writing the rescue of Democrats who open their mouths and insert their feet. In response to Carr's tweet, here's what PolitiFact wrote. Here's what he tweeted. Chris Carr, our state's #1 ranking for business has transformed hundreds of thousands of Georgians' lives. Just like when she supported the MLB boycott, Stacey Abrams' reckless and condescending comments continue to harm the state she claims she wants to govern. So she shit-talked her own state, and he responded, right? Well, PolitiFact came to the rescue, saying, prior to the boycott, which was announced on April 2nd, 2021, Abrams urged Major League Baseball not to move the game away from Atlanta, citing the economic harm to the metro Atlanta region. She repeated that concern after the game was moved away. In a Twitter video released March 31st, Abrams said, I want the passion of those calling for boycotts of Georgia following the passage of SB 202. Boycotts have been an important tool throughout our history to achieve social change, but here's the thing. Black, Latino, AAIP, which is now the new acronym for Asian American Pacific Islanders, and Native American voters whose votes are the most suppressed under SB 202, false, are the most likely to be hurt by potential boycotts of Georgia. To our friends across the country, please do not boycott us. To my fellow Georgians, stay and fight and stay and vote. Then the journal, she told the Atlanta Constitution in an article published on April 1st that critics of Georgia's new law shouldn't rush to a boycott yet. Instead, she said corporations should publicly condemn the law, invest in voting rights expansion, and support federal legislation. Then they gave one more example. Now, last April, when CNN's Daniel Dale and PolitiFact predictably swooped in to save Abrams after MLB made their announcement, these fact-checkers ignored vitally important context regarding what Abrams said as MLB prepared to make their announcement. And they're still ignoring it. Abrams making public statements against boycotts ahead of MLB's decision was a way for her to try and save face because she knew the inevitable was coming. And she also knew once it happened, the media and fact checkers would be eager to run interference in her aftermath, which she did. Also, she knows very well from previous boycott campaigns against Georgia, like the one over the pro-life bill 3 years ago, that left-wing activists typically respond to legislation they don't like, and in prominent figures like Abrams giving hellfire and brimstone speeches about it, by immediately jumping on the boycott bandwagon. So she knew as the moment after she started referring to the bill as Jim Crow in a suit, how outraged mobs on the left would respond. And yet she continued for weeks to lie about it. But further, an op-ed Abrams wrote in USA Today right before Major League Baseball decided to move the game was stealth edited by Abrams with the paper's blessing after the announcement was made and after the op-ed was published to soften her comments on the boycott. So it changed afterwards. So anyway, but that's not the subject I really wanted to talk about today. Let's get into it because I don't have as much. My time is short. So I ran across an article written by someone who goes by the Twitter handle Cut Down Tree. This is Stephen A. Richards. So he wrote this piece for the Washington Examiner on his transition and what makes trans ideology so hard to escape. And I found this fascinating. Like I said, I've been going into some of these Twitter spaces and listening to people, and it's and especially parents who are dealing with the same kind of issue. In the schools, we're starting to hear about, school counselors telling, transitioning kids or socially transitioning them, having the magic closet. Remember we talked about the magic closet, the one teacher was talking about? We're seeing a lot about it on TikTok. We're seeing a lot about it regarding the parental rights bill in Florida. And so it's a hot topic. It's important. And I think, and especially since we saw parents beginning to see what their kids are being taught in school during the pandemic, when all these kids are staying home and doing their Zoom classes and shit. So I thought this is a very important article to highlight. This is by Stephen A. Richards. And he writes, I became a male to female transsexual when I was only 15 years old. Now, let's just stop there. At 15, you got a brain that is not fully developed. You have a person, and it's just, there's all kinds of pressures when you're 15. And I'm just wondering, how do you become transgender or transsexual when you're 15? How do you do that? How do you legally do that? Anyway, bullying at school, instability at home, and the lack of close friends had me left looking for somewhere to belong. And the transgender movement happily provided one at the cost of my health and sanity. Living as a transgender woman left me delusional, paranoid, and sick. Despite this, I stayed transgender for 8 years. The nature of the transgender movement makes it almost impossible to escape and pushes the people within it to adopt radical beliefs and irreversibly harm themselves. My new identity bought me friends, mentors, and a purpose in life. I went from being a lonely, insecure teenager to a member of a loving community engaged in a heroic battle. Now that's part of it too. You become a hero. You become so. These kids who go through this, when they decide that they're going to be trans, they become so special and hyped. And some people say, "Oh no, why would anyone want to put themselves through that?" Well, right now, it's the thing to be. It's you're thought less of if you are a cis het, so to speak. The heroic battle against the evil society that desired my destruction. The left-wing oppression narratives disseminated online and in local queer youth groups run by adult members of the movement cast cis people as villains. Transitioning was a baptismal ritual, which I was cleansed of my wicked nature as a cis male oppressor and reborn as a virtuous and marginalized person with a new name and body. Adult transsexuals online coached me on how to convince my parents, doctors, and therapists that I was suffering from gender dysphoria. The term supposedly refers to an incongruence between one's sexed body and the internal sense of gender, but is used among transgender people as a catch-all term for any negative emotion. It's an attractive narrative for vulnerable teenagers who are struggling with their developing bodies, sexualities, and the looming responsibilities of adulthood. Not long after turning 15, I started on Luprin, a chemotherapy medication that is used off-label to halt puberty in gender dysphoric adolescents. At 16, I started taking synthetic estrogen. Why are they doing this before people's brains are fully developed? I just don't get it. When I expressed doubts, I was reassured that all transgender people sometimes feel like they aren't really transgender. What? So if you feel you're transgender, you are transgender. But all transgender people sometimes feel like they aren't really transgender. Oh, wait, doesn't that sign to stop and make sure? Oh, no. And that contentment waited at the end of the line if I just stuck with it. This is how they complain about conversion therapy, the idea of conversion therapy for gay people. This is conversion therapy for, vulnerable people. Clinging to this fantasy of a happy future where my transition was complete let me ignore that the medication made me feel worse, not better. I couldn't think clearly. I started missing school. I developed chronic migraines. My bones ached because the side effect of the Lupron especially is softening of bone tissue, or bone softening density. It reduces bone density. It's a side effect. I became suicidal. I barely scraped up enough credits to graduate from high school. Huh. Because see, one of the things, well, I'll tell you in a minute. The community explained away these negative treatment outcomes as manifestation of gender dysphoria and minority stress. Oh. Now you're minority. That's the stress. That's the stress. That's the manifestation of gender dysphoria, not the medicines that are making me feel terrible. My worsening health had nothing to do with my rejection of my body and identity or the experimental medications I was taking. It was all the fault of the transphobic society that tyrannized me. With this narrative, the community cultivated fear of the outside world in its members. I viewed anyone who questioned my transition or expressed concern for me as a bigot and disregarding them on principle. My parents learned to choose their words carefully so they wouldn't set me off. Oh, they must have had to learn your pronouns. I developed a panic response to hearing anyone express opinions that were deemed problematic. I suspected that everyone I passed on the street wanted me dead for being transgender. At 19, the delusion became untenable. I was miserable and getting worse. However, ending my transition would mean my body masculizing, and that idea terrified me. I didn't want to become one of the monstrous cis males. See, that's the dirty word in the trans community. I feared so much to lose my friends and my purpose. Maybe I rationalized it wasn't my transition wasn't working. I just hadn't gone far enough. Ooh, that's scary. Real quick, thank you, Black Hebrew Israelite, for sponsoring the show. It's Funky Friday, so I got to do the funk thing. Hang on, let me get some music for this thing here. Let's try this one. Wait, right there. Thank you, Black Hebrew Israelite, dropping a deuce in the tip jar, as you often do. When you have seconds to act, the police may be hours away. Hell, they sit back and prevent you from acting and tase a father in the process of trying to save a life of his daughter. Oh, that's right. I might get into that next week. FTG, these Texas police, get another job, you cowards.
That's right.
I am with you there. Yeah, that whole situation's fucked up. Oh boy. Oh boy. All right, back to this. If I can find it. Here we go. What the hell? There we go. Okay, I'll go back to at 19, the delusion became untenable. I was miserable, getting worse. However, maybe I rationalized it wasn't my transition, it wasn't working. I just hadn't gone far enough, and I'm sure that they were convincing you that it was time for surgeries, right? Hoping it would relieve my distress, I went to my doctor and I said I wanted an orchiectomy to have my testicles removed. I needed 2 letters from specialists to get the procedure covered by insurance. My doctor wrote one immediately. Really, no psychological evaluation. I went to my doctor and said, okay, here you go. She then referred me to a psychiatrist associated with her clinic. These gender-affirming clinics. Who wrote the other one after a single meeting. So you can start cutting shit off after a single meeting. One doctor's note and a single meeting with a psychiatrist. At 19, you can make that decision legally. Interesting. Now 19's an adult. But remember, this started at 15 for this person. Um, Within a few months, I'd gotten myself castrated, but the euphoria I had been promised didn't materialize. Mutilating myself hadn't made me whole. It had only made me mutilated. 2 years after my orchiectomy, I found myself in the same situation I'd been in before. Either I could admit that transitioning was never going to fix me, or I could go for another surgery and hope that this time it would be enough. I couldn't make myself believe the lie again. Coming to terms with what I lost has been the hardest thing I've ever done. Deciding to detransition cost me many close friends and forced me to rebuild my whole life. For some members of the movement, those who have lost ties with their family, who rely on the community for food and housing, detransitioning isn't an option. Many of them still live in the miserable world I escaped from, hoping that in the next step to their transition, a new name, a new set of pronouns, another year of hormones, another surgery, will bring them happiness they were promised. But as I learned, it never can. So now Stephen Richards is on Twitter and writes tweets about this kind of stuff a little bit, but the people who detransition, they get shunned. They get shunned after these people, are there, wanting to they gain validation by making others like them. And it's a scary thought that we have all these teachers. You see the teachers on the TikToks and shit, and they're demanding validation from children, and children look up to teachers and some want to be like their teachers. So it doesn't surprise me that when you see, I remember a few weeks ago we said one teacher was saying that half of her class identified as LGBTQ or trans or non-binary. Well, why is that? Oh, because you're teaching them it's cool. And everyone wants to please their teacher, right? It's just nuts. Now, and then we get to the societal part of it. Now, some of you probably saw this story on the Monkey in the Morning, but I'm going to go through it too. So and society's pushing. So there's an elementary school counselor who's in danger of losing her job. Is it because she's pushing kids to get surgeries? Is it because she's just, she has a magic closet where people can socially transition at school and go home and to their parents and not and hide it from their parents? No. Because she is being probed for immoral opposition to kids' sex changes. A Milwaukee elementary school counselor is under investigation by the state for, get this, quote, immoral conduct, end quote, after speaking out against sex change surgery for children, according to a report. Now, this report is from, I don't know, let's see, is this the report? Centersquare.com. Let's go on this one. I'm gonna get away from the daily, even though I'll leave the Daily Wire article up here, but here's the report. Milwaukee school counselor under state investigation for opposition to transgender ideology. The state is going after her. An elementary school counselor from Milwaukee is refusing to resign or change her mind about gender identity even after the state has opened an investigation that could cost her her job. I hope they have some hearings on this and bring in some experts. But, the only experts that are going to get brought in. The Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction sent Marissa Darling a letter on April 29th explaining she was under investigation for what she said at a rally in Madison just 6 days before. What could that be? DPI has opened an investigation to determine whether to initiate educator license revocation proceedings against you, the letter said. It has been alleged that you engaged in immoral conduct. Now, what was that immoral conduct? Was she diddling the children? Was she bringing porn into the classroom? Was she swearing at the kids in the middle of a recess? Oh no. She was one of several speakers at a feminist rally in Madison on April 23rd, where she used commonly expressed profanity repeatedly as she discussed transgenderism. Oh no, I have the paper. She used profanity at a rally that was not at the school. DPI's, now here's the quote. I oppose gender ideology ever entering the walls of my school building, Darling said. Over my dead fucking body will my students be exposed to the heart of gender identity ideology. Not a single one of my students under my fucking watch will ever transition socially, and sure as hell not medically. DPI's letter said the investigation will determine, quote, if there is a probable cause to support allegations of immoral conduct, end quote. Is this, what, are we in fucking, what's the, where the Puritans come, the Mayflower and shit? Hello, Rod Line, by the way. What? Allegations of immoral conduct? I thought maybe she was screwing the principal or something. DPI gave Darling the option to resign ahead of the investigation, but Darling instead opted to fight. On Wednesday, the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty sent a letter to DPI that promises a lawsuit if the state tries to suspend Darling's license because of her opposition to transgenderism or her use of profanity. The state is quite simply trying to punish a public school counselor for her views on gender ideology. This is a classic, clear-cut violation of the First Amendment, and the state can expect a federal lawsuit if it proceeds, Luke Berg said. Darling said that she will not back down and will not change her mind about transgenderism even after the investigation is complete. Quote, my views on the harms of gender ideology to children are informed by a desire to serve and protect children, she said. That's why I got into education. I will love and serve every child under my care, no matter what, but I won't recant under the threat from the state. So apparently she's the one of the feminists that you're not allowed to talk to because she said something that they don't, the activists don't want. I wonder if they have it. Do they have is this the one that had the clip? I'm going to check the Daily Caller, or excuse me, the Daily Wire article here, which is not scrolling for some reason. There we go. I thought they had video of her at this rally. Apparently they don't. But anyway, shit's crazy. I'm sorry. That shit's crazy. Is she required to, is that like required a part of the curriculum? She's a feminist. Now, the problem about this though is this is it's becoming this national thing that we're doing, and here's a good example of what's happening on the national level, because a lot of these states are saying we don't want to have want to have male bodies in female sports. We are trying to determine how this is affecting us as far as Title IX and different laws and things like that. Well, the Biden administration is dragging its feet on transgender-focused Title IX overhaul, and here's why. Now, because they wanted to overhaul Title IX to add some language for transgender people, right? Which, first of all, the whole transgender thing. I by the way, I have this this linked again, Dysphoric. I highly encourage you to watch this. It's a four-part documentary on this, and kind of focusing on how this is becoming so prominent, how people who detransition, it has the stories of people who were kind of talked into transitioning, and now they're detransitioning and trying to get their lives back. And it's more common than you think. See, they don't talk about it a lot, but people who go through gender dysphoria, at least as young children, if they don't go on puberty blockers, the small percentage that actually have some kind of gender dysphoria while they're going through puberty, it's like 88% grow out of it, right? But 100% of kids who go on puberty blockers end up going onto hormones. So you're not giving people a chance to develop the hormones themselves, or the puberty blockers. It basically sterilizes people. Some of the other off use for that drug is to chemically castrate convicted felons. That's one of the drugs they're using to postpone puberty in children. So, and they don't know if it's reversible. They don't have the research on whether it's reversible. They say it's completely reversible, but they don't have the research that says it's completely reversible. This is a new phenomenon, and it scares the shit out of me. It scares the shit out of me just because I'm thinking, I got a baby granddaughter who's going to be going to school in 4 or 5 years, and what kind of shit she going to be learning? What kind of thing are they going to be pushing then? It's nuts. Anyway, back to the Biden administration. They are trying to put this Title IX rule, right? And so the subtitle of this is the long-awaited Title IX rule changes may eliminate due process protections, open women's spaces to biological men. They want to force the entire country to be in line with Title IX. You have to open up your restrooms and whatever. Popular opposition may be delaying the Biden Education Department push to expand Title IX protections to transgender Americans, experts say. A spokesman. Oh, thank you. Tyre Alexander dropping a deuce in the tip jar. Hang on. Oh, hang on. Let me throw a little funk together here. How about this one? Dark and smooth. Ooh, that's like me. Tyre Alexander with a deuce in the tip jar says this trans shit is a fucking cult. I concur. I think it is. You either drank the Kool-Aid, he said the Kook-Aid, and sacrifice your body to Slanish, or we will cast you out and make you the devil. The left claims they shun fanatics, but they are the worst type of religious zealots. The obey or burn types. Yes, you are spot on, sir. And thank you for sponsoring the show again. All right. Back to this one. It's so slow. A spokesman told the Washington Free Beacon that the department plans to release updated Title IX rules in June after twice delaying the rollout. The rule change is expected to erase Trump-era due process protections for sexual misconduct investigations on college campus. See, the Trump administration said, if you're accused of something heinous like the R word that ends in apes, you should have due process before the college just has their little mini tribunal and kicks you off campus before you're if you're accused, you're fucked, so to speak. And the Trump administration said, no, you need to give people due process like you would for any other crime, right? Well, the Biden administration is thinking about getting rid of those rules. Also, it could also allow transgender individuals to access sex-segregated spaces like bathrooms. Title IX stakeholders believe the unpopularity of the latter provision could explain why the rollout is being delayed. Quote, the administration may be looking at the polls showing that Americans overwhelmingly do not support this radical redefinition of a law meant to provide basic civil rights protections to women and girls in educational institutions. Independent Women's Forum, which is a conservative women's organization. Senior policy analyst Inez Stepman told the Free Beacon, this delay is an attempt to evade political responsibility for their unpopular policies. The delay could pose a political problem for the Biden administration. President Joe Biden promised during the 2020 campaign to bring a quick end to the Trump-era rules. Critics say those rules prolonged investigations into sexual misconduct. Oh, God, they prolonged investigations. Instead, just let's just hang those boys now. It prolonged investigations into sexual misconduct and delayed case resolutions. Because, God forbid, you have due process. We should just make a decision. Kick him off campus. She said he did. A coalition of activist groups has pressed Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona to expedite the department's Title IX overhaul. As of this writing, the proposed rule changes are still under review by the Office of Management and Budget. Sarah Parshall Perry, that's a weird name, who served under former President Donald Trump in the Education Department's Office of Civil Rights, said the extended review process is a hopeful sign that the office is pushing the Education Department for more information on the rule change, or else has sent the department back to the drawing board. Well, let's hope. Candace Johnson, another Trump Educational Department alum, suggests that the delay could be political, with the White House looking ahead to the fall election and wanting to bury this Title IX explosion under other news. Like, oh, well, this might be a good time to do it, right? There's a whole lot of other news people are paying attention to. Anyway, but a June release could suggest the opposite. In addition to being LGBTQ or LGBT Pride Month, this June marks the 50th anniversary of Title IX. Expanding Title IX to cover transgender people in June would fit the Biden administration's pattern of pegging policy, no pun intended, to politically advantaged. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. Politically advantageous dates. The president demanded that all American troops be pulled out of Afghanistan before the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 terror attacks. The White House announced independence from COVID on July 4th, and Biden this week signed an executive order on police reform to mark the second anniversary of George Floyd's death. The department's refusal to publicize its delay shows the administration's fear of being held accountable for postponing a change that Biden promised to bring early in this time in office, Perry said. The fact Politico broke the story that the new Title IX is once again being delayed rather than the Department of Education publicizing that delay itself indicates to me that they're not keen on being held accountable for the delay, said Perry, now a legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation. A second period of public comment will come after the Education Department announces its rules. The department will then have the final opportunity to edit rules before submitting the final change to the Federal Register. So, oh yeah, they do want you to play that game, don't you? I don't know. I don't even game. I don't know how I get this shit on my computer. I don't game at all. Anyway, well, that's not true. I do play some games on my phone, but they're phone games. I have one driving game on my phone that I play. Anyway, so on top of that, let's see. Do I have time for these other two? Yeah, I do. I only have two other articles. I'm going to skip this one. All right, give me a second. All right, well, I'm gonna just put that one in the back burner. So on this note, so like I said, so people are saying, oh yeah, the shootings, we should take away, people 18 and older's rights to purchase weapons or whatever reason and. Now, this article from the Federalist, I'm probably going to have to edit myself. I will call this, what's this? Well, the same left that freaked out over ivermectin wants to pump kids full of transgender hormones. And this is an editorial in the Federalist by Marco Rubio. Okay? Even if you think children should be able to pause puberty and take hormones, shouldn't you at least want to make sure the drugs are safe? Maybe. Don't do it, yelled Dr. Anthony Fauci in August. There's no evidence whatsoever that works. Fauci, of course, was referring to ivermectin to treat stupid 19. For the moment, set aside that Fauci should have been fired years ago and has a long record of misleading and politicizing science. He and pretty much everyone else in America's public health infrastructure pointed out that that stuff that they say is horse paste, had not been approved for treating stupid 19. Therefore, using it off-label was dangerous. But now, these same bureaucrats take a completely different view about giving puberty-blocking drugs to children. Puberty blockers are federally approved for treating different cancers and very early onset of puberty. They are not approved for delaying puberty in children experiencing gender dysphoria. Yet the Biden administration is actively promoting that off-label use as part of what they like to call gender-affirming care. Now, that just means if a little kid says, "Mommy, can I wear a dress today?" Mommy can say, "Oh, I think you're trans. Let's go talk to the counselor and see if they'll put you on puberty blockers." Or they suggest it even. They will tell parents, if you don't do this, your child will commit suicide. You can either have suicide or you can have your child alive as another sex or gender, whatever they tell the parents. It's kind of gross. Anyway, puberty blocker. Okay, I already said that. They are not approved for delaying puberty in children experiencing gender dysphoria. Even if you believe elementary school children experiencing gender dysphoria should be able to delay puberty, shouldn't you at least want to make sure the drugs are safe? That's the question I asked Dr. Lawrence Tabak, the acting director of the National Institute of Health last week. Where's the safety data? Where is the effectiveness data? Where is the long-term risk data? All questions the public health establishment asked, and rightly so, about ivermectin. Tabak's answer: the National Institute of Health funds a small number of observational studies. And over time, we will be able to better answer the types of questions you're posting. Say what? A small number of observations. You are talking about permanently changing the chemistry of a child? In other words, there are no answers. We have absolutely no meaningful data regarding the long-term implications of giving these radical life-altering drugs to elementary school children. We cannot possibly weigh the cost and benefits. The Food and Drug Administration is nowhere close to approving such uses, yet the Biden administration, the corporate media, and the so-called experts are actively promoting them. It's irresponsible and dangerous. For example, what happens to an 11-year-old girl who starts taking puberty blockers and then decides at age 16 she wants to live as a woman? The Biden administration claims the effect of puberty blockers are reversible. Based on Tabak's sworn testimony, that claim is misleading at best. A major Swedish health institution acknowledged puberty blockers could result in extensive and irreversible adverse consequences such as cardiovascular disease, osteoporosis, infertility, increased cancer risk, and thrombosis. Remember I said that the most popular one, what is it called? There's one that it lessens bone density, and especially in girls who already have less dense bones as they're going through puberty. After they go through puberty, because it's causing all kinds of bone problems in kids. We know that the vast majority of individuals with gender dysphoria eventually lose their desire to identify with another sex. That is clinically documented. But Democrats, including the one with public, in fact, I'll link that one there. In fact, I'm going to link I'll have a couple of these studies out. One from, there's a Swedish study and there's that. Okay. But Democrats, including the woke public health officials who make up our scientific establishment, because it's science. You blinded me with science. Now claim the study is flawed. Oh. Is there just one study? Because I know they're studying it in Sweden too, and they kind of said the same shit. Of course, those same activists cannot point to a study to defend poisoning our children. As with Stupid 19, it appears that for woke ideologues, follow the science means getting the preferred outcomes regardless of the evidence. We need to have a higher standard when administering life-altering drugs to children. As usual, Florida is leading the way in establishing that standard. Surgeon General Joseph Ladapo cited the lack of conclusive evidence and the potential for long-term irreversible effects in his memo blocking hormonal and surgical interventions for children with gender dysphoria. The left railed against that memo, but what Florida is doing is common sense. What is crazy is that the same people who took chocolate milk out of school lunches are promoting puberty blockers, hormone injections, mutilative surgeries for children who are more than a decade away from having fully developed brains. That's true. And it is time we start holding woke public health officials responsible for their dangerous advocacy. It is the only way we'll be able to protect our children from this extreme responsible zealotry. So that was from Marco Rubio. And then I did have one more on this kind of note, a side note. So Ricky Gervais or whatever his name is in trouble. And it's the English comics turn to be mauled by the outrage mob. So apparently his new Netflix comedy special, well, he's pissing off the right people, the wrong people. I don't know. So this is a article by Bruce Bauer, who says, I've never watched either the UK or US version of the sitcom The Office. Well, you should just stop writing now and go binge. Anyway, so my immense respect for its creator, the English stand-up comedy Ricky Gervais, is based almost entirely on the monologues he delivered at the 5 Golden Globe ceremonies between 2010 and 2020. Acting consistently as anti-host, he mocked the program's preposterous pretensions, roasted the celebrity-packed audience for its political correctness and hypocrisy, and rejected altogether the implicit premise of all such occasions, namely that Hollywood is a mecca of both great art and high principle, and that the movie stars, in addition to being America's answer to royalty, are quite often the voice of America's conscience. Quote, we were going to do an in memoriam this year, Gervais quipped, beer in hand, in his 2020 Globes monologue, but when I saw the list of people that had died, it wasn't diverse enough. When the audience groaned at Jeffrey Epstein gag, he twisted the knife. Shut up. I know he's your friend, but I don't care. He described Bird Box as a movie where people survive by acting like they don't see a thing, sort of like working with Harvey Weinstein. No! More groans than this. You did it, shut the fuck up. Then there was his choice bit about Apple, and with CEO Tim Cook in the audience no less, the computer giant. Gervais noted that had roared into the TV game with The Morning Show, a superb drama about the importance of dignity and doing the right thing, made by a company that runs sweatshops in China. Yet more groans, Gervais doubled down. Well, you say you're woke, but the companies that you work for, I mean, unbelievable. Apple, Amazon, Disney. If ISIS started a streaming service, you'd call your agent, wouldn't you? Now, so you shouldn't. So if you do win an award tonight, don't use it as a platform to make political speech. You're in no position to lecture the public about anything. You know nothing about the real world. Most of you spent less time in school than Greta Thunberg. Terrific stuff. Now, let's go to terrific stuff. And post-Globes, to his credit, Gervais has stayed the course. He's one of a very small number of top-level entertainers who refuse to toe the woke line and who are big enough to weather the cancel culture. Now, in the wake of Dave Chappelle's Netflix stand-up special, The Closer, which outraged the woke cloud while giving the sane viewers a reason to hope for eventual liberation from the crazy new road rules, come another burst of sanity, also courtesy of Netflix, and also in the form of a stand-up special, Gervais's Supernature. Here, as on the Globes, Gervais established from the outset that he's not about to bow to PC. He refers to old-fashioned women, the ones with wombs. Apropos of Boris Johnson's widely condemned remark that a woman in a burqa looks like a letterbox, Gervais says, "It's not up to Boris what a Muslim woman wears on her face, it's up to her husband." Amid the drollery, moreover, Gervais serves up observations that aren't meant to be funny and that won't be news to the non-woke, but that are nonetheless refreshing to hear a mainstream figure utter out loud. For example, that, quote, "People nowadays want you to think that words are actual violence," end quote, and that, quote, "nothing is considered mental," end quote, anymore, up to and including identifying as a pram. When it comes to transgenderism, to be sure, Gervais, like Chappelle, feels compelled to soften the blow. Chappelle closed the closer with a long personal anecdote intended to prove his pro-trans sympathies. Gervais, for his part, assures us at the end of Supernature that if he tells trans jokes, it's because he wants to be inclusive. No group of people should be off limits. "I support all human rights, and trans rights are human rights. Live your best life. Use your preferred pronouns. Be the gender that you feel you are." Alas, just as Chappelle concluding the anecdote didn't prevent trans lunatics from calling for his head, one whack job from the audience tackling him on stage, Gervais's curtain speech hasn't kept him from being savaged in the trans material. Take GLAAD, the organization of queer media police, which, by the way, no longer uses its full name, the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation, since these days it's all transgenderism all the time. Issuing the predictable complaint that Supernatural is, quote, "full of dangerous, graphic, anti-trans rants masquerading as jokes," end quote, GLAAD maintained that Netflix, by airing the special, had violated its own policy against content, quote, "designed to incite hate or violence," end quote. GLAAD neglected to mention that Gervais's witticisms will doubtless also caused plenty of suicides. And denouncing Gervais's jibe about the old-fashioned women with wombs, the British website Pink News instructed readers that there are many reasons why a cis woman might not have a womb. About 1 in 5,000 women are born without a uterus because of a condition known as Mayer-Rokitansky-Kuster-Hauser. Others have them removed for various medical reasons. And transgender podcaster Ian Thomas Malone, while ridiculing the idea that there is such a thing as cancel culture and referring to sex change surgery, incidentally, as mainstream medical care for trans children, accused Gervais of recycling tired, grievous nonsense and said Supernature was a Trump rally disguised as a comedy special. Really? Ricky Gervais? A Trump rally? I don't think so. Anyway, the criticism didn't just come from professional trans cops. At least two pieces in Variety clobbered Gervais as anti-trans. William Earl chided him for, among other things, denying that women can have a penis. It's fucking crazy town. While Daniel D'Addario deplored the purported sensitivity of Gervais's suggestion that non-op trans women lose the cock. "It'd be easy to call this joke shocking," wrote D'Addario. "No, what should be regarded as shocking is that in the year 2020, mainstream publications embrace as an unquestioned orthodoxy the proposition that a woman can have male genitalia." Finally, at the Decider website, one Sean L. McCarthy, who advertises himself as working the comedy beat, plainly felt that in order to demolish Supernature, all he had to do was show that much of Gervais's humor is based on odious stereotypes, such as the notion that many straight men are uneasy about male homosexuality, but turned on by lesbians. Out of curiosity, I looked up McCarthy's take on Hannah Gadsby, the Tasmanian lesbian who woke the world's favorite comet because her politically motivated refusal to do anything on stage that might be by conventional standards be recognized as comedy. Surprise, McCarthy loves her. Have you ever seen Hannah Gadsby? You know who that is? She's the one who basically I don't know. She's not funny at all. Anyway, in the end, what's most striking about the reception of Supernature is that Gervais, in his special, actually just at least as much about pro-lifers and Christians and religion generally as he does about transgenderism or any left-wing sacred cows. Glad excoriated his riff on AIDS as anti-gay. In fact, the whole purpose of that portion of his act was to scoff at religious people who describe AIDS as a divine punishment for homosexuality. Indeed, as Gervais explains in the show's opening moments, the reason he titled it Supernature is that he doesn't believe in the supernatural and thinks that nature all by itself is super enough. But have Christians protested the show in any great numbers with any degree of fervor? If so, haven't seen it. So, anyway. All right, gang. It's Friday, and it's time for me to go to get my weekend started. But I will be here live Monday, as I normally am, Monday through Friday, 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock, or 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central, because I'm in Central Time. But I got to tell you the Eastern Time, because none of you know what Central Time is, unless you live in the Central Time. And kind of like, everyone knows the East Coast and West Coast, but no one knows us guys in the middle. Anyway, before you go, hit the like button if you haven't already done it, because there's 27 people here and only 22 likes, so some of you haven't hit it yet. Also, if you'd be so kind, share the stream before, during, and after every stream. Project 10,000 still in the works. I'm still trying to get more guests, still trying to get more people to join us here. Also, if you happen to want to sponsor the show, you can do that at pdognight.live. That's a place where you can watch the show, still work in the chat, and hit the tip jar once in a while if you like doing that. Thank you for our sponsor today, Tyre Alexander and Black Hebrew is your light. Tyre Alexander, you are the Streamlabs Superstar sponsor of the day. And if you're watching on replay, put a comment in the comments section. Tell me what you think about some of the articles we read and where we're at. Now, reminder, in the outro, while the outro's playing, I will update the link in the description down below where you can find all of these articles and videos, etc. So thank you very much. Oh, just before we go, thank you, Selected Boy. The music's going to play in a second, but I'll go ahead and read the super chat. Thank you for the 10 spot in the super chat. Selected Boy says, a Tasmanian lesbian, the most ravenous beast than the actual animal. A Tasmanian lesbian, the most ravenous. I'm not sure what that means. What? Richo, do you know anything about Tasmanian lesbians? I'm just curious. Or is where are my other Australia peeps? Is it just Richo today? We'll see you Monday, and who knows? We might do a trail stop stream tomorrow. I'll ask Lady Boomer. Y'all have a nice weekend. Happy Friday. Enjoy the rest of your day. My name's P-Dog Knight, and I'm out of here. And what's your name? How you doing? I see you there. I caught you before I left. I'm out of here. Bye-bye. Hey, this is P-Dog Knight, and thank you for watching today on the P-Dog Knight channel. If you have an observation or remark you'd like to make about this video or my channel, I absolutely welcome you to write it in the comment section down below. I really look forward to hearing from you. And before you go, if you like what you saw but you're not already subscribed, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and definitely click that bell that pops up afterwards so you'll be notified when I post new videos or when we go live. I broadcast my live show, The Morning Night Live, Monday through Friday at 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. A special thank you to all the supporters of this channel who share our videos on social media and who make donations through Streamlabs, YouTube, Venmo, and Cash App, which are all linked in the description down below. Thanks again, and until next time, I'm P-Dog Knight, and I'm out of here.